Hey there, you're looking kind of cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out all my other socials. Enjoy. The last sunlight came through the broken windshield. It shined on the dashboard through the broken glass. Sirens sounded in the distance. Emergency broadcasts crackled with static, mixed with quiet country music. Maurice moved. His head hurt and his heart beat fast. He saw quick, blurry images of the crash. The noise got louder and pulled him back to being awake. His face was pressed against rough wooden boards. It wasn't the road. It wasn't the inside of a Toyota Camry. He smelled fresh bread and smoke from wood instead of antifreeze and burnt rubber. Maurice opened his eyes. He saw straw on the old wooden floor. "Finally awake, are we?" A woman's voice cut through the fog. "Thought you'd sleep through the morning rush again, Eliana." The name hit like ice water. Maurice tried to sit up, but something constricted around the torso, tight, unyielding. Hands moved to investigate and found laced fabric. A corset. Below that, layers of rough linen pooled around legs that seemed too smooth, too slender. "I'm not." The voice that emerged was higher, softer. Maurice's hand flew to the throat, fingers searching for an Adam's apple that wasn't there. "Not feeling well?" The woman appeared in the doorway, flour dusting her brown dress and green apron. Her face was weathered, lined with years of hard work. "Can't afford to lose another day, girl. Thomas already started the ovens." Maurice looked down. A blue dress covered the body, rough peasant fabric that had seen better days. A white apron lay folded on a small wooden stool beside the narrow bed. Auburn hair fell across shoulders in waves, catching the morning light streaming through the single window. "Where am I?" The woman's brow furrowed. "Did you hit your head yesterday?" "You're in Millbrook, same as always. Now get dressed properly. The bread won't bake itself." She left, muttering about lazy girls and empty bellies. Maurice stood on unsteady legs, the dress swishing around ankles. The room was sparse. A bed, a stool, a small wooden chest. No electrical outlets, no light switches. A chamber pot sat in the corner. The chest contained more dresses, all in shades of brown and gray, along with white linen undergarments that looked nothing like modern clothing. Maurice's hands shook while tying the apron strings, muscle memory that didn't belong guiding the movements. Outside the small room, a narrow hallway led to steep stairs. The building creaked with age, every board groaning under footsteps that felt too light. The bakery occupied the ground floor, its massive stone ovens already radiating heat. "There she is." A man looked up from kneading dough, his face red from exertion and heat. Gray streaked his beard, and his brown tunic bore the stains of countless mornings spent in flour and yeast. "Martha said you were sluggish this morning." I don't feel like myself." "Well, feel like someone who can shape loaves. We've got 50 orders before noon." Maurice approached the long wooden table where mounds of dough waited. The hands, smaller now with tapered fingers, picked up a portion and began working it. The motions came naturally, as if the body remembered what the mind couldn't grasp. "Thomas," Maurice ventured, the name rising unbidden. "What year is it?" He laughed, a rough sound. "Lost track of days again? It's the year of our Lord 1487, the feast of St. Catherine approaching. You'd best remember, since you're meant to bring the ceremonial loaves." 1487. No cars, no phones, no way home. The morning passed in a blur of kneading, shaping, and baking. Customers came and went, all addressing Maurice as Eliana, a young woman who worked in the bakery, orphaned and taken in by Thomas and Martha. The story emerged in fragments throughout the day. "Eliana, take these to the miller," Martha commanded, loading a basket with fresh rolls. "And don't dawdle talking to that blacksmith's boy." The streets of Millbrook were narrow and muddy. Wooden buildings leaned against each other like drunken friends, their upper stories jutting out to create patches of shade. People went about their business, merchants hawking wares, women carrying water from the central well, children chasing chickens through the muck. The blue dress caught on everything, the hem dragged through puddles, and the corset made breathing difficult. Maurice had to stop twice, pressing a hand against the stays to catch breath that wouldn't come properly. "Morning, Eliana." A young man stepped out from the smithy, wiping soot-stained hands on a leather apron. Dark hair fell across green eyes, and his smile revealed teeth that were surprisingly white for the era. "Let me help with that basket." "I can manage." "Course you can. But why should you when I'm here?" He took the basket before Maurice could protest. "Father's got me working on horseshoes all morning. Rather be out here talking to you." His name was William. The knowledge appeared like all the others, slotting into place in a mind that fought against impossible circumstances. He'd been courting Eliana for months, bringing small gifts and stealing moments between work. "You seem distant today," William observed as he walked alongside. "Everything well?" "Just tired." "Father spoke to Thomas yesterday." His voice dropped, suddenly serious. "About us. About marriage." The word hit hard. Marriage. In this body. In this time. "I need to get back." Maurice grabbed the now empty basket. "Martha's waiting." "Eliana." But Maurice was already hurrying away, the blue dress tangling between legs that moved too fast for the narrow streets. Back in the bakery, the afternoon stretched endlessly. More bread, more customers, more people who saw only Eliana. As dusk approached, Maurice slipped away to the small room upstairs. The mirror was nothing more than polished metal, but it showed enough. An oval face with high cheekbones, auburn hair that fell to the middle of the back, green eyes wide with barely contained panic. The body was perhaps 25 years old, built slight but strong from years of bakery work. "This isn't real." The words echoed in the small space. "This can't be real." But the corset was real, the dress was real, the ache in muscles from a day of unfamiliar work was real. Days blurred together. Wake in the blue dress or one of its brown and gray sisters. Tie the white apron, knead bread, dodge William's increasingly persistent attention, search for any sign of the modern world, and find nothing but medieval squalor. No one questioned Eliana's sudden confusion about basic tasks. They attributed it to female vapors or the approaching winter. Maurice learned to navigate the dress, to breathe shallowly in the corset, to braid the auburn hair in the style expected of an unmarried woman. The magic Maurice desperately hoped for never appeared. No wizards walked the streets. No potions promised transformation. This was simply medieval England, with all its harsh realities and limited options. "You can't avoid him forever," Martha said one evening, watching Maurice scrub the wooden work tables. "William's a good match. His family has coin, and he's gentle enough." "I'm not ready for marriage." "Ready?" Martha laughed, but not unkindly. "Girl, you're past ready. Another winter or two, and you'll be too old for any man to want." That night, Maurice lay awake in the narrow bed, staring at the rough-hewn ceiling beams. The accident played over and over, the truck running the red light, the impact, the world going dark. How did dying in rural Pennsylvania lead to waking up in medieval England? In this body? Weeks passed. The Feast of St. Catherine came and went. Maurice baked the ceremonial loaves, carried them to the church in the blue dress with the white apron freshly pressed. William was there, helping to set up tables in the square. "You've been avoiding me." He caught Maurice's arm as the crowd pressed close. "Have I done something to offend?" "No, because if it's about the marriage talk, we can wait. I know it's sudden." The sincerity in his green eyes was painful to see. This wasn't some villain from a fairy tale, just a young man in love with a woman who no longer existed in the way he believed. "I need time to think." "Time I can give." He squeezed the arm gently before letting go. "But Eliana, don't think too long. Life's short in Millbrook." Winter arrived with a vengeance. The bakery ovens became a blessing, their heat the only thing keeping the building warm. Maurice had grown accustomed to the routine. Wake, dress in whichever woolen dress was cleanest, tie the white apron, bake bread until exhaustion took over. The body had adapted too. Muscles remembered tasks the mind initially rejected. The monthly bleeding that had terrified Maurice the first time now seemed merely inconvenient. Even the corset felt normal, its absence at night leaving a strange emptiness. "Eliana, we need to talk." Thomas stood in the doorway one gray February morning. Snow piled against the windows, and the oven struggled against the cold. William's father came by again yesterday. I know what you're going to say. Do you? His weathered face creased with concern. Because what I'm going to say is that we can't keep you forever. Martha and we've done our best since your parents died, but we're not young anymore. The fictional parents. Maurice had pieced together Eliana's history from fragments. Merchants killed by bandits when she was young, Thomas and Martha taking in the orphaned girl, teaching her the bakery trade. You're saying I have to marry him. I'm saying you have to do something. If not William, then someone else. But you can't stay here playing at being a girl forever. You're a woman grown, and it's time you acted like it. The words stung because they held truth. In this world, in this body, what other options existed? No woman ran her own bakery. No woman lived independently. The choices were marriage or the convent, and Maurice had no calling for religious life. Give me until spring, please. Thomas sighed, but nodded. Spring then, but no longer. March arrived with mud and hope. The snow melted, turning Millbrook's streets into rivers of muck that soaked through even the sturdiest boots. Maurice had taken to wearing the blue dress most days, its color somehow comforting in its familiarity. You look lovely today. William appeared at the bakery door, a bundle of early wildflowers in his hand. These made me think of you. The flowers were simple things, white petals with yellow centers, but they smelled of spring and possibility. Maurice took them, inhaling their scent. Thank you. Walk with me? Just to the well and back? The request was reasonable, public, proper. Maurice set aside the bread paddle and untied the white apron, hanging it on its hook. The streets were busy with people emerging from winter's grip. Women washed linens in the weak sunshine, while men repaired roofs damaged by snow. Children splashed through puddles, their laughter bright against the gray buildings. I've been patient, William said, as he guided Maurice around the worst of the mud. But I need to know, is there hope for us? The blue dress caught on a loose board. William steadied Maurice with a hand at the elbow, his touch gentle but firm. In that moment, something shifted. Not love, perhaps, but recognition. This was a good man in a hard world. There's hope. His smile transformed his face. Truly? I can't promise when, but yes, there's hope. They walked back in comfortable silence. At the bakery door, William caught Maurice's hand. I'll wait, however long it takes. Spring bloomed fully. The market square filled with vendors selling early vegetables and questionable remedies. Maurice had learned to navigate the crowds in the long dresses, to haggle for supplies, to gossip with the other women while maintaining Eliana's reputation. The proposal came on a perfect May morning. William arrived at the bakery before dawn, dressed in his finest clothes, a deep green tunic that brought out his eyes. He dropped to one knee right there in the flour dust. Eliana, I've loved you since the day you threw a burnt roll at my head for teasing you. His voice shook slightly. Will you be my wife? Martha gasped from the doorway. Thomas paused in his kneading. The entire bakery held its breath. Maurice looked down at this earnest young man, thought of the blue dress that had become as natural as skin, of the auburn hair now reaching past the shoulder blades, of a life that could never return to what it was. Yes, the wedding took place in June. The whole village attended, cramming into the small stone church. Maurice wore a new dress, pale yellow linen that Martha had sewn with shaking fingers. The white apron was replaced with a golden belt, marking the transition from maiden to wife. You're radiant, William whispered, as he took Maurice's hands before the altar. I've dreamed of this moment. The vows were simple, ancient words that bound two lives together. When the priest pronounced them married, William's kiss was gentle, respectful of the crowd watching. The feast afterward filled the market square. Tables groaned under the weight of meat pies, fresh bread, baked by Maurice that very morning, and barrels of ale. Musicians played while people danced, and for the first time since waking in this world, Maurice felt something approaching peace. The blacksmith's house was modest but well built. 2 stories of solid timber with a garden plot out back. William had prepared it carefully, adding small touches. dried flowers on the mantel, new rushes on the floors, a looking glass that showed clearer reflections than the bakery's polished metal. "Welcome home," he said, carrying Maurice over the threshold. The yellow dress swirled as he set her down, and his hands lingered at the waist. Our home. That night, in the privacy of their bedchamber, Maurice faced the final acceptance of this new life. William was patient, gentle, treating the body with reverence. When morning came, the transformation was complete, not just from male to female, but from Maurice to Eliana, wholly and irrevocably. Life settled into new rhythms. William worked the forge while Eliana kept house and helped at the bakery when needed. The blue dress still hung in the wardrobe, worn on washing days or when working in the garden. The white apron saw daily use, tied over brown or gray dresses, as Eliana learned to manage a household. "You've changed," Martha observed one autumn day, watching Eliana knead dough with practiced ease. "More settled, marriage suits you." It did, in ways Maurice would never have imagined. William was a considerate husband, bringing small gifts, a ribbon for the auburn hair, a new thimble, flowers picked on the way home from the smithy. In return, Eliana kept his house, mended his clothes, and slowly learned to return his affection. The first pregnancy came as a shock. The monthly bleeding that had marked time stopped, and Martha's knowing looks confirmed what Eliana's body already knew. William's joy was boundless, practically dancing around the forge when told. "A child," he breathed, hands gentle on the still flat stomach. "Our child." The baby arrived during a spring storm, thunder masking Eliana's cries. A daughter with William's dark hair and her mother's green eyes. They named her Rose, and holding her for the first time, Eliana felt the last walls crumble. This was real. This was life. This was who she was now. Years passed in the rhythm of medieval life. More children followed. 2 sons who showed early interest in their father's trade. Another daughter who helped in the bakery. Eliana's body showed the marks of motherhood, wider at the hips, softer at the edges, but William's affection never wavered. "Do you ever wonder about your life before?" he asked one evening. They sat in the garden, watching their children chase fireflies. Eliana wore the blue dress, faded now but still serviceable, the white apron stained with years of use. "Before? Before you came to Millbrook, you never speak of your childhood." The truth was impossible to tell. How could she explain a world of cars and computers, of being someone else entirely? Instead, Eliana took his weathered hand in hers. "My life began when I met you. Everything before that was just waiting." He kissed her temple, satisfied with the answer. In the distance, church bells rang the evening hour, the same bells that had welcomed Maurice to this world so many years ago. The plague came in Eliana's 40th year. It swept through Millbrook like wildfire, taking the weak and strong alike. Thomas succumbed first, then Martha. The bakery stood empty, its ovens cold. William worked tirelessly, fashioning nails for coffins, his face gray with exhaustion and fear. "Take the children to your sister," he urged one night. Dark circles ringed his eyes, and his hands shook with fatigue. "The countryside might be safer." "Not without you. Eliana, we stay together, always." The sickness took their youngest son. Eliana held him as he burned with fever, singing lullabies in a voice cracked with tears. They buried him in the churchyard on a day when the sky wept with them. But slowly, miraculously, the plague passed. Those who survived emerged into a world made strange by absence. Empty houses stood like broken teeth along Millbrook's streets. The market square, once bustling, echoed with ghosts. "We rebuild," William declared, gathering the survivors. "We go on because we must." And they did. The bakery reopened with Eliana at its helm, teaching her daughters the art of bread making. The auburn hair, now streaked with silver, was still braided in the style of a respectable matron. The blue dress had been patched so many times it was more thread than original fabric, but she wore it proudly. Rose married a merchant's son, moving to London. The boys took over the smithy as William's joints stiffened with age. The youngest daughter stayed close, helping in the bakery, carrying on traditions. "I've had a good life," William said one winter evening. They sat by the fire, hands intertwined, watching snow fall past the window. "Because of you." Eliana squeezed his fingers, feeling the calluses earned through decades of honest work. Tomorrow would bring more bread to bake, more life to live. But tonight, in the warmth of their home, wearing the familiar blue dress and white apron, she was simply a woman who had found her place in an unexpected world. The years continued their relentless march. William passed quietly one autumn morning, his hand in Eliana's as the leaves turned gold outside their window. She wore the yellow wedding dress to his funeral, faded now but still carrying memories of happier days. Widowhood in Millbrook meant a return to the bakery, now run by her daughter Margaret. Eliana taught a new generation the art of bread making, her gnarled hands still sure with the dough. The children called her grandmother Eliana, and she told them stories by the ovens, tales of mysterious lands where people flew in metal birds and spoke across vast distances. "Tell us more about the magic boxes," they'd beg, and she'd weave fantasies that were really memories, half-forgotten truths from a life that seemed like a dream. On quiet evenings, Eliana would climb the narrow stairs to the room where she'd first awakened in this world. The small space had been converted to storage, but sometimes she'd sit on a crate and remember. The crash, the confusion, the terror of finding herself transformed. "Was it real?" she'd whisper to the auburn hair, now white as fresh snow. "Was there truly another life?" But the question mattered less with each passing year. This life, the children, the grandchildren, the decades of bread and love and loss, this was real. The rest was just prologue. Eliana lived to see her great-grandchildren born. She taught them to braid dough and trust the ovens, to measure flour by feel and know when the yeast was ready. The blue dress, carefully preserved, hung in Margaret's wardrobe, a relic of the past, too precious to wear but too meaningful to discard. The end came gently, like sleep after a long day's work. Eliana lay in the bed she'd shared with William, surrounded by family. Margaret held one hand. Rose, returned from London with her own gray hair, held the other. "Tell William I'm coming," Eliana whispered, seeing something beyond the room, beyond Millbrook, beyond the world itself. She closed her eyes, and for just a moment, a flash between heartbeats, she remembered everything. Maurice, the car, the choice that was no choice, the life that had become more real than the one left behind. Then peace, as complete as fresh bread cooling on the shelf, as perfect as a well-lived life coming to its natural close. They buried her in the yellow wedding dress, beside William in the churchyard. The entire village attended, sharing stories of bread and kindness, of a woman who had appeared in their midst and made herself indispensable. Margaret kept the bakery running, teaching her own daughters the recipes Eliana had perfected. And sometimes, on quiet mornings when the mist rose from the streets, she'd swear she could see her mother in the blue dress and white apron, kneading dough with hands that would never age, auburn hair catching the light as she smiled at some secret knowledge. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.